My name is Michael, and I'm a prison guard at this penitentiary. As I was doing my rounds today, inmate number 1857, hanging on his cell bars, shouted at me, "Hey, your daughter's 7 years old this year, right? She's the first one I'll visit when I get out." "What?" Enraged, I rushed to the bars and grabbed his collar, and he laughed as if it were amusing. Inmate 1857. His name is Rick, the most notorious criminal in this prison. Rick is a psychopath who killed a woman in her 60s, chopped her up with a knife, and even ate her flesh before claiming insanity. Rick was incredibly lucky. The victim's son actively sought leniency for him. The devout Christian son decided to forgive Rick in the name of God, even after his mother was brutally murdered. It was something I couldn't understand at all. Thanks to this, Rick was acknowledged as mentally impaired and received a 15-year sentence only. After his sentence was confirmed, Rick began to show his true colors. He constantly hurled insults without reason and threatened to kill the families of those who irritated him once he was released. Knowing his madness, people grew anxious as his release date approached. The ironic thing was that this psychopath was a dutiful son. Having lived with a single mother his entire life, he cherished her dearly. His mother began preparing to open a beef jerky store with Rick about a month before his release, and started sending boxes of jerky and letters to the prison. However, bringing in outside food was strictly forbidden in the prison. So we tried to return the parcels she sent, but the warden stopped me and said he would allow the packages to be delivered to Rick. I couldn't understand his actions. The warden must have been bribed by Rick's mother. "Dear son, your mother is preparing a jerky business these days. Please try it and give me your feedback. From your future business partner, Mom." When I opened the box of jerky, I saw a letter written in meticulous handwriting. She seemed quite serious about the business, sending a box of jerky made with various recipes to the prison every week. Smoked, chili, teriyaki flavors, and more. Thanks to this, Rick spent his days chewing on jerky. He even began using the jerky like currency, ordering his cellmates around. The prisoners, who relied solely on the prison-provided rations, cleaned for Rick, acted violently on his behalf, or dug up information on people Rick didn't like in exchange for jerky. Rick also collected feedback from the inmates about which jerky recipe tasted the best, and sent letters to his mother. He was already fulfilling his role as a business partner before his release. He showed no remorse for the deceased victim and focused solely on making the business prosper. I was angry at the victim's son. If my mother had been so brutally murdered, I would have never forgiven the perpetrator. Due to his excessive tolerance, the evil demon would soon be released into the world, and more victims would follow, which could include my own family. Rick's release date approached, now just a week away, and his mother had already opened the store and was waiting for him. The store was named Mom's Beef Jerky, as a tribute to her love for her son. As the release date neared and my anxiety peaked, I took a secret day off, which I didn't tell my wife and daughter about. I had to visit Rick's store, track his movements, and carefully devise ways to protect my family from him. When I went to the address written on the letter, Mom's Beef Jerky, I noticed a sign with a familiar phrase. It was a store opened by Rick's mother. At that time, I saw the warden coming out of the store. It was clear that he was involved in some sort of backroom dealing with Rick's mother. I hid in my car until the warden disappeared, then entered the store. Now that I had witnessed it with my own eyes, I had to expose their inappropriate dealings. As I opened the store door, there stood a man there with fair skin and a gentle demeanor. "Welcome." "Huh? Isn't this Rick's mother's store?" "Oh, yes, it is. Who are you?" "You should be the employee. I'm a prison guard at the prison where your son is incarcerated. I saw the warden leaving just now. What's the relationship between him and Rick's mother?" "Oh, Rick's mother is inside. Would you like to meet her and hear it directly from her? Follow me." I followed the man to a storeroom deep inside the kitchen, and he pointed to the ceiling, saying,
"She's here."
There, a middle-aged woman's head was hanging from the ceiling, shriveled and twisted after being soaked in sauce.
Ah! What is this?
I was so shocked that I screamed and collapsed on the spot. Then the man smiled brightly and said,
"I'm the son of the woman who was killed by Rick. I've been waiting for Rick to be released and come to this store as soon as possible. Whew! I've sent the rest of the body, and now only the head remains. I'll prepare the head according to the final recipe Rick advised, and plan to send it to the prison tomorrow."
I ran out of there in utter disbelief and didn't tell anyone about what happened that day. A week later, I saw the corner of the prison warden's mouth go up strangely as he stared at Rick, who was happily tasting the last delivered jerky. And not long after his release, Rick went missing. It happened a few days ago. Me and my family went to a vacation house owned by my uncle. I had a great time there since I got to spend some time playing with my siblings in the clubhouse. One day we decided to visit the local mall, which was about 15 minutes away from where we live. My uncle's family went in another car, and we went in our own. We didn't exactly know where the mall was, so my sister sent us the location, and we followed that. Suddenly, our car stopped in the middle of the road. Fortunately, nothing bad happened, and we somehow managed to park our car beside the road. I called my sister, who was in my uncle's car. They said they had been pulled over by the cops because their car was a four-seater and there were 6 people sitting in the car. After about 30 minutes, my dad found a mechanic and our car started working again. We were now going to the mall, but suddenly our GPS stopped working. Keep in mind that my sister's GPS stopped working too. We then figured out that by the time we would reach there, the mall would have already been closed. Anyway, we headed back to our home and played pool in the clubhouse. The next morning, we were all shocked to know that the mall was burnt to a crisp when we were supposed to be there. There were around 50 people dead. To this day, I think what would have happened if our car didn't stop where it did, or if the GPS hadn't stopped working. It still gives me chills. My name is Kevin, and this happened to me last month. I was camping with 2 of my friends. We booked a spot at a large campsite in a forest that's right next to a lake and a beach. On the second night of our trip, I woke up from my sleep to use the bathroom. The bathrooms were located in their own individual building, and to get there, you have to walk down a dirt road through the forest. While I was walking to the washrooms, I felt like I was being watched. Luckily, I made it to the bathroom safely. But on my way back, I started to hear fast footsteps behind me. I turned around, and following right behind me was a scarily tall human-like figure. The only thing I could see other than its silhouette were its beaming orange eyes. I immediately started to run as fast as I could, while the figure ran behind me. I cut through some trees and bushes and hid so that it lost my tracks. I eventually made it to my tent, but I decided to quickly peek out to see if the creature was gone. To my surprise, I saw the tall figure walk to the lake's beach and start digging a hole in the sand. It then sprinted off into the forest. My friends didn't believe me when I told them, but I know what I saw was true, and I will definitely never be heading back to that campsite ever again. I wanted to share my horror story experience with you. I cannot tell you my name because of privacy issues. You can just call me Maybeth. I'm 13 years old and this incident happened to me recently. I had gone to live with my grandmother for summer vacation. My grandmother lives on the city side in a big house in which my 9-year-old cousin John also lives. My cousin has a habit of teasing me. It was nighttime and I was sleeping in my room. It was 2 in the morning. In my room, there's a big window that faces the outside of the house, in which I could see the garden and a lot of trees. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of somebody tapping on my window. It was dark in the room. When I looked around the room from the window, I saw my cousin hanging from the tree outside the window. He was knocking on the window like a psychopath, and he had that creepy smile on his face. I knew that he was not my cousin, but whoever it was, I wasn't going to find out. I quickly ran away from the window while screaming at the top of my lungs. My grandma came and asked me what had happened. I told her all about it, and she said,
"You should not worry too much. It is normal for me. I even saw you."
I was so confused. I asked Grandma.
"What does it mean?"
Then what she said next will always remain in my memory.
"There's a ghost that lives in this town."
It gives me the chills to think about an incident that happened when I was 13. I still remember it, even to this day. So here's the story. One day at school, my friends decided to play Ding Dong Ditch. Let's call them Anthony, Ed, David, and Josh. So once we planned everything, we went out around 6 p.m. and started deciding which house we should do. There was this one house that was creepy looking, and I heard rumors that a crazy man was living at that place. So being dumb kids, we decided to see if the rumors were true. Being the fastest one, I had to knock first. So I did around 3 times and ran. Then I hid behind a bush where Ed was hiding. I jumped when the door swung open and a crazed man looked out the door. I realized that this man wasn't normal. He was screaming and saying, "I'm gonna kill you," then slammed the door. We were a little terrified, but we decided it was Anthony's turn to knock. I told him to walk slowly, then run to us when he's done. So Anthony knocked, then ran to where we were hiding. A few seconds later, the guy opened the door with something that gave me the chills. A knife and a metal baseball bat. Ed said, "Run!" The guy heard Ed and started chasing us at a terrifying speed. We hid behind a neighbor's house. We stayed there until we felt like he was gone. But this part is something that I can call paralyzation. The guy was right there, but instead of a knife, the man was holding Ed. We screamed, then ran to our houses. My mind was racing. Was Ed going to be okay? I called David and Josh and I asked them if they were home yet, and they said yes. Then they asked me where was Ed. I told them what happened to Ed, and they were in shock. I wish the story ended here, but it doesn't. That day I was getting ready for bed, thinking about what had just happened. While I was laying in bed, there was a thunderstorm. Then, after a few flashes, there was a shadowy figure appearing after each flash of lightning. I turned to look, and there he was, looking at me. And he gave me a bone-chilling grin. To this day, I still haven't told anybody about this incident. Ed went missing, and he's still missing to this day.